Personal effects. In the loft, a small suitcase. In the suitcase, someone's life. A birth certificate and baby shoes, a catapult and school cap, a Zippo lighter and pipe. Photographs of parents and several passports heavily laden with stamps from countries visited. A small unopened box contains war medals. Right place, wrong time was all he said. A more recent photograph with friends, another with neighbours, a third in the garden with a snowman and young children. His possessions dispersed to charity shops, anything else removed by a builder's skip. His whole life now encapsulated in a suitcase the size of a shoebox, but there will never be a case big enough to contain his memories. Thank you. And you might need to know a good spread of art to get this one. It's called Another Normal Day. The lobster phone rang. He held it to his ear. All he could hear was the sound of the sea. The man in the bowler hat could only smell apples as the fragmented woman played the guitar. In a bedroom overlooking the square, the drawers in a woman's chest were open. Maybe she was searching for her heart. The distant town hall soft clock struck midday, and on the pier a woman ran screaming. Pointillist people pointed whilst promenading, and a black silhouetted girl leant against the wall as she watched a red balloon float away. In the bedroom above, a woman left, leaving her bed unmade and her detritus scattered around. She vowed to tidy up when she returned. In the theatre, the Can-Can girls danced, and Absinthe was drunk, and reclining nudes reclined. In the bar, the young woman caught her reflection in a mirror as she waited, observing. The evening became late, and a lone woman waited in a street corner cafe, staring deeply into her cup. Morning arrived, and matchstick men and women made their way down bleak streets to the factories. In a cornfield outside town, a flock of crows took flight, as formaldehyde half cows and sheep grazed and water lilies floated in the garden pond. It was a new day, and the washed out sun rose over the sea. This was just another normal day in the minds of artists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan.
And quite a lot in there.
Yes. History of Western art in one poem. Right. Steve Junior, do you want to read next? But unmuting first of all.
Unmute you, man, unmute.
Sorry, yeah. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
This one's called Lockdown. The lockdown has been very, very prevalent as people have had to stay indoors and unable to have their natural freedom. It has really been such a testing time for the nation, with so many lives being lost. But in the trueness of true grit and perseverance, the nation has come through with a vaccine which is causing positive inclination and is a sign of great things to come. I think it is so wonderful our professors, scientists and experts has come up with this vaccine when all hell was let loose. The NHS having to work the way they did underlines the immensity and gratitude of their incredible work. We pray that this lingering hope with the lockdown easing and the society starting cautiously to come out of this darkness and difficult time. As a nation, we have to follow the measures implemented by the government and stride on with optimism to see the change around and getting back of this great nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Have you got another one?
Okay. This one's called Family. The family is a unit that stays knitted and whole. Family structure brings positivity and a healthy foundation to individuals. Not having a family structure growing up, I felt rejected and lost. But at this time of my life, the structure that was missing for me has now become the harboring of so much ties and involvement with people, which has ridiculed my early beginnings. The ability tied needed to be, that ability needed to be harnessed growing up only turned out to be a self-prospering. I feel good at this time of my life to know that I can be involved in so many different things when defining the great wholeness of my character and well-being. As family, love and care for each other, I am now the one who is caring for my own family, also attending to the needs of others by showing love and empathy. A star, you might think, which wouldn't be far from the truth. I am so happy to be everyone's friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Ruth.
Right. Long stay. And this is about my stepmother who had dementia, and so that she could find her way to her bed, they'd put balloons all along the end of it. Long stay. Hers is the bed with the balloons. Christmas has come and gone without her, leaving her these to show the way. One night, a winter gale slams against the top floor windows. 6 blue balloons rub sides on the bottom rail. She asks them one by one, if the weather's bad in Orkney, that's where her son lives now, are the landlines down? Next day, she squints at distances as though she's staring out to sea. She believes Gerald's expected soon, but he doesn't come. She needs to phone. She flurries about the ward, frisks bins for the book she keeps the numbers in. They sit her down. She talks to her balloons. Didn't I meet you once at Chamonix? Talks and talks till the air goes out. And the next one's called White Heather. 2 women, shawled with children at their skirts, were hawking pegs, and Lucky Heather gathered from the downs. My mother saw them from an upstairs room and hid. She half believed in portents and the fluke of luck, but would not buy for all their wheedling. They talked so rough, she thought they'd turn on her and blight the household with a parting curse. She never said, but always circled round the workmen's ladders when she brought them tea, was circumspect with salt, and if she saw one, shooed the magpie from our lawn. When I jumped over cracks or raced downstairs pursued by nothing she could see, she understood, though I grew out of it, and disbelieved that girls who sat on tables never got married. Once, for a lark, we tried to figure out our lifelines. Hers was wavering and ended in a fork. It must have worried her, although she laughed it off. I only thought of this when all her lucky numbers had run out and I was travelling to hold her hand. I'd brought White Heather from the Downs, 2 wiry sprigs to lay beside the pointless flowers. Right, that's it.
Lovely. Thank you, Ruth. Really lovely poems. Jim.
This is called The All-Embracing Forgiveness of J. Arthur Jones. Noting the rapid movements of an old man's eyes, a nurse hovers at his bedside. His words are unclear but pulsed with urgency. I forgive the army doctor who botched up my circumcision with some very unfortunate consequences in my later life. I forgive the German air pilot who 2 years before my conception fired a machine gun at my father and missed. I forgive the perpetrators of the Charles Atlas strength course for 8-stone weaklings. The much heralded muscles failed to materialize. I forgive the girl who said in a manner suggestive of irony, "It doesn't really matter that you couldn't make it with me, and it certainly wasn't your fault." I forgive the other girls who said something similar. I forgive the firm which in 1953 stopped manufacturing the Cayley's Cuba, 10 small milk chocolate eclairs that took me to paradise and beyond. And I forgive the girl I almost married who said, "Is that it then?" when for me the it had been so much more. And I forgive a teacher who told my father he suspected I was constantly playing with my pocket chess set beneath a desk during geography lessons. And I forgive the pathetic, lying, trivia-obsessed egomaniac hell-bound for dementia who has been so largely responsible for the ruination of my entire life. In answer to his signal, the bemused nurse hands him a mirror. Instead of inspecting himself, he casts it aside. The mirror shatters on the hospice floor. She later visits his desolate headstone, which bears the words, "I forgive." Yeah, I've got a second poem. It's quite a short one. It's called A Small Ads. You know, where you kind of advertise like romance ads and stuff like that. The small ads: bachelor, widow, late 40s, 50-ish, still got it, sensitive, wants to meet female 16 to 85 plus, likes fine wines, haute cuisine. Oh, sorry, likes fine wines, haute cuisine, with good pair of knockers, shared continental holidays, who does the business, yearns for soulmate, and then some, with detached house, must be a Millwall supporter. No time wasters, please.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim.
Brilliant.
So, Vivian, you've got to follow that.
Okay. Right, the first one isn't mine. It's just one I came across, and I just really like it. It's one of my favourite poems, and you probably all know it. It's the Way Through the Woods by Mr. Rudyard Kipling, and then I've got one of my own. Okay. They shut the road through the woods 70 years ago. Weather and rain have undone it again. And now you would never know there was once a road through the woods, before they planted the trees. It is underneath the coppice and heath, and the thin anemones only the keeper sees. But where the ringdove broods, and the badgers roll at ease, there was once a road through the woods. Yet if you enter the woods of a summer evening late, when the night air cools on the trout-ringed pools, where the otter whistles his mate, they fear not men in the woods, because they see so few. You will hear the beat of a horse's feet, and the swish of a skirt in the dew, steadily cantering through the misty solitudes, as though they perfectly knew the old lost road through the woods. But there is no road through the woods. Okay. And the second one is mine. Wrote it a couple of years ago, and it's called Hope. Hope can mean many things. I hope everything will be all right. I hope you will get well soon. I hope you find love and peace. Hope for me means likelihood, something positive to hold on to in times of trouble. Doesn't matter if it's a little or a lot. Any vestige of hope worth so much. Believe anything is possible in a moment of hope. Holding on, praying it will come true. Hope gives life a chance. Hope gives ambition the desire to succeed in a difficult world. Hope bestows confidence. Hope bestows faith and trust. Hope, even a girl's name. A short word, much depends on it. Hope, a goal to strive for, something you wish to hear. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Vivian. Now, Stuart, would you like to go next? But you're still on mute. Yes.
I'm sorry I've been away for so long. My reason for rejoining is I woke up one morning early this year and I turned completely green. So no, Vivian, it's all right. Not that kind of green. So I've converted to green issues. And I started writing bits and pieces about trees. I think I appealed, Peter, to you, if there were any tree poems you thought were of merit, you let me have them. And I've written 2 pieces on trees. The first one is dedicated to 3 people, Greta Thunberg, whom you all know anyway, Rachel Carson, who wrote Silent Spring, first alerted people in the 60s to what was going on in the environment, and Michael Mann, who invented the hockey curve, showing the extent of global warming. This is called Whistling in the Dark, and it contains the most reviled and disliked tree in the whole of Britain, which we'll come to in a second. It's also got a chorus, so you can unmute if you want and join in the chorus. And it's about starlings. And up here we have enormous murmurations, 10,000 starlings at a time. Has anyone else seen them? Yeah, people seen murmurations? They are extraordinary, going across the sky. And it's called Whistling in the Dark, and the chorus is the noise that starlings make sitting in the chimney pots. They go. So when I raise my hand like that, I want you all to go. If you can't whistle, you can go pachoo. Okay? So unmute yourself. All unmuted, please. No? Nobody going to join in? Thank you, Peter. Okay, here we go. This was written in March this year. Spring is coming as sure as fate. And now, just before the dusk, we see vast murmurations of starlings in the clear, cold air. Immense flocks whirling like ideas, all turning suddenly, unpredictable, to follow one philosophical straggler. Patterned like magnetized flecks of iron, weaving to and fro like the skirts of a black aurora borealis. And no one knows why. Perhaps for the sheer joy of it. Come on. Thank you. Okay, stop. Except for the murmur of their wings overhead, they are silent until they fall swiftly like small, dark, triangular stones to roost in, guess what? Those unloved, evergreen, overgrown, much disputed Lelandii cypresses. I hope you know this tree. I knew that tree must be useful for something. And then it burst into song, thousands of conversations. What can they be singing to each other? Just like us, courtship and mating, leather jacket grubs and earthworms, that's what it says here. Warmth and shelter, nourishment, Vivian, and hope. Then nesting, and a new brood clutches of small blue eggs, and imprinted into that tiny beating heart, murmurations. The green spring is coming. That. Okay.
Brilliant.
Do I have time for another one?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. This is much more. This is much more solemn, I think, and it's about yew trees. You probably know yew trees. They're quite famous in folklore in Britain, and they're rather. I find them rather ominous, very solemn trees, dark. So this is called Approaching Yew Trees at Dusk. A dark, brooding tree, wiser and more cynical than 50 generations. It is simply too dangerous to approach this oracle ill-prepared. Yews have heard every churchyard litany of praise and flattery, but now no more to be believed, this evergreen symbol of eternal life. Toxic, nothing grows on yews, nor in their shade. Yes, they listen, but they never reply. They are hollowed out like us. Lay aside the strung bow of your brilliant mind, the crippling arrow venom of your ambiguous utterances. Find your questions elsewhere. And if you have the wit, you too stay silent, says the heart. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. That was lovely. Got Jane next.
Unmute.
Yes. Are you going to have participation from the crowds?
No, no participation. I've called this one COVID Calypso. I spent most of the year, well, all year in Dominica, hiding from COVID, really. And I was amazed at all the songs and calypsos written about COVID, warning people, to wash your hands and wear your mask. And so I've called this COVID Calypso. I've been dancing my way through the COVID pandemic. And if you don't believe me, come to Dominica, Nature Isle of the Caribbean, where mountains of grace and grandeur dominate vistas far and near, where valleys plunge to unfathomable depths, where the Caribbean Sea in its ebbing and flowing reenacts the refrains of steel pans and reggae beats, where gigantic Atlantic waves rise and fall to the rhythms of African drums, boom, 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 de boom, evoking street dance and carnival. On one of my morning walks, a flight of pelicans gracefully swoop, and mesmerized, I hold my breath, envisaging a class of excited infants practicing the numbers and rhyming words. 1 pelican, 2 pelicans, 3 pelicans, 4, 5 pelicans, 6 pelicans, 3 pelicans, 3 pelicans, 4, 5 pelicans, 6 pelicans, 7 pelicans more, 8 pelicans, 9 pelicans, 10 pelicans, boo, 11 pelicans, 12 pelicans, 13 pelicans, shoot. The children laugh and dance for joy, as do I every day, to my favorite COVID Calypso of no hugging, no handshaking, this corona is a fatal thing. And so Calypso music keeps my spirits up. And in the privacy of my kitchen, I mock the COVID as I prepare breakfast of cocoa tea, hard dough bread, and fried fish, fresh from the morning's catch. I am more than hopeful, I am strong, as not a single death so far. And all the virus victims recover fully. I don't care what anybody says. I give full respect to Calypso, the Corona beater. So giving thanks, yes, giving big thanks, big time. Moving the body, winding the waist, shaking off COVID successfully. Calypso music, not just a dancing spree, no siree, but a rhythmic weapon to keep us COVID free. And a very short one. A very short one. I visited a friend after lockdown. We had lockdown as well, not as long as here in England, but there's lockdown in Dominica. And I visited those two friends at the end of lockdown. No better way to end the lockdown than a day with mac and tea, with menus so exquisite, enough to feed an army. Fish broth and apple pie, cooked and served with love. And then the jokes, like Shalaya Bakokope, doing a dance with La Poussinière, the morning star, and so much more. Thank you, Mac and T, for helping me out of lockdown so enjoyably. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. So do you wish you were still in Dominica? Although you're muted, I think, is that a yes?
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Nick, do you want to go next?
Yeah, okay. So this is called A Grand Entrance. Dancing on the tips of needles, cavorting over sword tips, running on the blades of axes. In his enchanted armour, Wainamoinen comes at last to enter over Punan's cairn, to the open hillside, to the giant's teeth. The giant sleeps beneath the hill, trees sprouting from his brows, roots twining through his beard, rocks rising from the bracken. In between, the air escapes from the sleeping giant. All the lore is shut within, all his spells are dormant. How then to extract the magic, to find the words the old man needs? He draws the broadsword from its sheath to prise the jaws apart, inserts the tip between the stones, in between the ancient lips. With all his strength he forces the blade between the teeth and slips. That's all I've got for now. So that's it.
That's it. Don't you have any more with you?
Oh, I might have. I'm not very well organised. I only just got home. Got a love poem. Fancy a love poem?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Romance in the modern world. How can I fight through your cynical webs to cut away your fears? How can I show you my love is true and dry your secret tears? I'd profess my love, but you'd only assume I was lying to you, as you've been lied to by others less honest and true. So I'll just have to prove it the hard way, in 10,000 acts of kindness a day, by picking wildflowers for you to wear in your hair, or winning a bear for you at the fair, doing the laundry and emptying bins, doing the lottery and sharing my wins, taking you for a meal at your favourite place, hugging you softly, caressing your face, listening to your problems and calming your soul, taking you to visit a farm with a newborn foal, by holding your hand and buying you cats, doing the dishes and so many acts, until you'd have to admit that my love is true, and I am your knight, and my lady is you.
Oh, very sweet. Lorraine, do you want to?
Thought Mohammed was, oh, okay. They're all quite short, and the first one is autobiographical, unfortunately. It's called The Stunt. The London Borough of Bromley has opened a second front. They're convinced the car park abuser is staging some sort of stunt. They're in hot pursuit, cunning and cute, firing toxic missives from an alien territory. PO Box 1166 Wellington House, Uxbridge, UB8 9BD, where intelligence is shared in camaraderie with Bromley's allies, the spy squad scouts of nearby Bexley. The two felonies fell into a fortnight apart. The criminal was consistent, but that made no impact on the enforcement officers, so ecstatic at heart. Yellow stickers or not, they were primed up to act. Exchange of light weapons winged through the air. The alleged offender didn't much care. Biographics, logistics, acoustics, forensics, all up for contrast and compare, aimed at ordering a fine or ensnare. But should good fortune smile down on a severe verdict, a short cell break from the lockdown would suit the convict. And that's true, if they'd rather go into a cell than pay my fines. I'll do one more now, and I'll save one for later then. It's not long. This is called Minuscule Pets, and you probably all know that the bumblebees are in danger at the moment. They're in Scotland and not anywhere else. Anyhow, Scotland's protecting the mites. They're trying to dodge the farmers' naive homicide, looking for safe and sound breeding sites before they're wiped out with insecticide and herbicide. It's as if the earth has enough humans and doesn't need any more. It currently harbours a far lower numbers of species than the precious league of Bombus distingendus. Than the precious league, yes. So what does the planet want the bumblebee for? Way south of the D or the sign, amateur horticulturists aren't affected. They're always online or feeding their proliferous blooms in between bizarre, eye-watering zooms. No one near the channel has noticed yet, but they'll be swift to order a rare yellow and black striped minuscule pecs. So that's what will happen to the bumblebees. And another one for later anyhow. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Thank you.
Steve Rushton in Chichester.
Hi, hello everyone. Yeah, I don't remember, but 2 weeks ago I started The Story of an Eye. It's about a giant orb with all these other body parts tiny in proportion. And when last we left him, he'd just awoken on a working weekday morning. So there are these two poems that follow on from his waking. And the first poem, Alan, this is another art poem, and the artist is Pontormo, if anyone knows him. Great kind of Renaissance mannerist artist. Okay, 5. Silver background, purple shawl, a hint of green. A soft blue top, red underneath, or matched in pastel hue. A face that's soft in shadow, modulating round her chin and temples, seeming flat to sight. Especially since her eyes, so round and dark, make pale the shadows closest by. They lie some space apart, wherein the nose appears as broad and bold, to catch the light and let it mould its shape around a bridge, to nostrils curve that echo lips below, which in their soft complexity form patterns hiding secret thoughts, for all we know. I see this image now anew as beautiful, just like the story it was from, Annunciation on a surface pastel hue. Bold form appearing merciful, compassionate, solicitous and sensitive in sculpted light, or so depicted by the great Renaissance artist, making miracles on walls as God made one inside the Virgin in the story as was told. So from an age of images as more than text, this one in reproduction speaks to me at breakfast. 6. Ogre eager to escape by straining, squeezing, slow releasing, splashing in success, relief, it leaves no mess, thank God, ejecting what was once, I'm guessing, breakfast. Is your colon or a racing track of speeding motor cars, all aching for a checkered flag, a finish line of cold enamel, champagne splash of flushing water, or a motorway of heaving traffic piling down to London, leaving masses of pollution, or an A road full of hold-ups, roundabouts and one-way streets, restricting tides of easy access, or a B road lined with roadworks, potholes to infinity, with locals moving in the same direction off towards a mundane destination. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Mohammed, are you there?
Hello, Peter.
Hello,
Hello.
Mohammed.
Good to be back. I'm quite so I was start my stuff and listen to you guys. Okay. Spring blossom, not every day does it come. Herald season of flowers, making pleasant all our hours. Spring blossom, sweeping forsythia. Spring blossom, sunny new magnolia. Heralding a season of flowers, making lovely all our hours. Spring blossom, not every day does it. Spring blossom, not every day does it come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Launch April Fool's Wish. George wanted to heard properly, I suppose. Tech fault, but let's have a go now. April Fool's Wish. Wish I could join the human at play on April Fool's Day, the origin of which remains unknown. I'd like to, though I'm a cat, tag fish on someone's back and switch salt with sugar. I'm sure no one will mind. I will cover the toilet with good plastic wrap. I'll tell them Nixon's running for president. It'll be such a laugh. I'll say they're harvesting noodles from trees with the straightest face. My time will be spent pinning fake tails on kick me signs, on pants seats. They'll go hunting, the gawk, sent on phony errands, getting fish on their backs, April fish, butt of jokes, gags, and all manner of hoaxes. They'll feel like young, easily nabbed fish, gullible and silly. I'll celebrate 1st April, the vernal equinox, Hilaria festival, Latin for joyful, when people wear disguises and mock their fellow souls. As a cat, I would demand inclusivity and celebrate New Year's properly, finding funny those slow to switch from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar. But the joke's me. And one last one for this session, which is to celebrate Shakespeare's birthday, coming up on the 23rd of April. People say it's the 23rd of April, so a good guess, I suppose. And incidentally, his death, 23rd of April. Yeah. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold cup dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy evil summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe, or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed.
You're welcome.
Norman, do you want to follow Mohammed Shakespeare?
Can you hear me, Peter?
Yep, we can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, Mohammed Shakespeare. That's a good name. Okay, I'm going to take you guys. I'm just doing the one, Peter. It's about 5-6 verses. I'm taking you back to the 1930s. To be more precise, it's probably 1926-27 to 1935, and it's the era of the dance orchestras. So if you think of Pennies from Heaven and all that good stuff, I really like that music, listen to it periodically. It was a time, they called it a depression. There was a lot of unemployment, and yet there were certain industries that were booming, like car industry, aircraft, electronics. So what I've done with this one is I'm covering the sort of working class, middle class, upper class, and aristocracy. The common theme amongst them all is that they all love dance orchestra music. And I've wrapped in 10 song titles, which you will probably pick out. It's called My Hat's on the Side of My Head, which is an Al Bowley orchestra number. So here we go. The wireless is on. The dance band are playing in the living room of this working class home. Alfie has left the docks and arrived home for the evening. Annie has supper on its way, but there's just enough time for a dance with her beloved. Love is the sweetest thing. Arm in arm, they enter another world to the rhythm of the 1930s. Times are hard, but blue skies are around the corner. The wireless is on. The dance band are playing in the lounge of this middle-class home down Sunnyside Lane. George has arrived home from banking in the city. Emily has kept the weeds at bay and tended the rose garden. There is plenty of time to dance on the patio. In the distance, the band are playing You'll Be Mine in Apple Blossom Time. The wireless is on. The news is being read in the drawing room of this upper-class home. Henry has arrived home from his board meeting. Virginia has completed her charity work for the day. A pick-me-up is needed, for the stock market declines. But their minds switch off from their pennies from heaven as a dance band starts playing their song on the wireless. Love is good for anything that ails you. The wireless is on. The news is being read in the library of this aristocratic home. Edward and Elizabeth long for the good old times, cocktails at the Savoy, hopping to the dance orchestra, playing Anything Goes. But their estate is on the decline. A theme park is planned. They pray that happy days are here again soon and that it's a lovely day tomorrow. And so the cycle of life goes round and round. The girls wash their hair on Friday night, then set off to cinema dates, their hearts in flight, where boy meets girl and falls head over heels, which leads him to sing on the bus homeward bound, My Hat's on the Side of My Head. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was excellent. Now, Mr. Burl. Are you ready, Mr. Burl?
Yes, I am. Just about. So I'm going to start with one from my book, Suburban Lullaby. You probably all know this one. Anyway, this is Old Suits. I've still got my tooth missing, so I'm a bit sibilant still. You hang there silent in the dark, with only dust for company, who once encased my bony frame, each long forgotten maker's name, now hidden from all scrutiny. Was it forgetfulness to park these remnants of a former life before their cuffs began to fray, and I became as grey as they? Those creases sharper than a knife have long attacked this battered face, which bears these symbols of its age, as cracks and fissures testify of weathered oak's maturity, having withstood such constant rage of time and seasons with some grace. Once you were intimate with me, but now discarded like old love, left hanging in this solemn grove among the ghosts of memory. And a more recent one, this is Pompeii. It's a sonnet, and there's an epigraph from Psalm 103. As for man, his days are like grass. He flourishes like a flower of the field, for the wind passes over it and it is gone. They were perhaps planning a family meal, cleaning the room, dreaming of life and love, walking their street, making a hard-won deal, when suddenly, from the pitiless sky above, came that suffocating tide of death, which caught them in mid-flight. No time for prayer to gods who are not there, nor any breath for crying. Only their shapes remain. Despair and terror captured them, frozen in stone for archaeologists to find, their bodies vaporized. How like so many, and all brave hopes may vanish, past and gone. Future plans so futile turn to ashes when death pays his sudden final call. And one more for the moment. One of my translations of Baudelaire. This is the venal muse. Muse of my heart, lover of stone chateau, will you, when January's north winds blow, all through black boring evenings full of snow, to thaw your purple feet have embers glow? Or warm your marbled shoulders back to life by moonlight striking through these frosty panes, feeling your purse as vacant as your veins, rayed where the vaulted heavens gold is rife? To gain your nightly bread there is a need for swinging censers like an altar boy, and sung Te Deums which are not your creed, or street performers showing off with joy, and laughter hiding tears. This must be done to give the idle crowd a bit of fun. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. Anne, are you ready?
Yes. Great Barrier Reef, opalescent, aquamarine, the coral sea shimmers like shot silk in sunlight. Far below, the eponymous corals wave fronds of mustard, green and purple like Indian dancers. Above, fish fly multicolored, many-sized. Small fish, boys in that playground, zip about, dart hither and thither in purposeful convoys, while piscine aldermen swim slowly by, waiting for notice and photography. In this quiet world, corals and fish alike do their own thing, feel no pressure to conform to the mores of terrestrial life. On this pontoon, we are the aliens, watching their world and wondering at it. We are the aliens in our goggles and flippers, and they're waiting for us to leave. If only in real life we went round as if in a film, hearing the music, which tells us if we should expect the worst, or that our romance will last, or that we should be very scared. We'd know where we stood all the time, when to be valiant, when to turn tail, when to expect a happy ending. Of course, the characters in films can't hear the music either, so they don't know what to expect. We don't want them to know, or she'd never have taken that shower and no one would have travelled on the Orient Express that day. But that's entertainment. It would certainly be useful in real life.
Thank you very much, Anne.
You want another very short one?
Yes, why not?
Riddle. Why is a mouse when it spins? You asked, smirking a little. You'll never get that one. It's easy, I answered, in fact, because the higher the fewer. Your mouth fell akimbo. How did you know that, you asked? You're having a senior moment, I answered. We read it in the same book.
Thank you very much. Ted, are you there?
I'm here, Maestro. Got me?
Yes, please. Could you give us
Lovely.
a couple of
I've
points?
actually written almost a poem, which is quite a revelation. Here we go. There are invisible voices whispering at me from men and women inside my TV. They are telling us secrets we already know that were in the newspaper ages ago. A square inch of pottery was discovered on a dig, and although they're not certain, they are pretty sure, although not a fact, they've unearthed an unseen, unmarked religious artifact. In the competition that's been running for months, they whisper the secret ingredients that go in the pot. Now it's how it's tossed and it's turned, although we can see that it's cooked carefully and given a name from overseas. I peer through the secrets and see what I see looks more like to me like egg, chips and peas. And that's your lot. No?
Shallots as well.
Shallot. Were you lucky enough not to be able to hear any of that?
No, we heard it all. We're just pretending we didn't.
My artistry is failing me. That's your lot. I'm not giving you any more.
Oh, shame. Sure. Second half.
I might dig a... well, I can't dig a new one out. I'll dig an old one out. Probably.
Right. Okay.
Okay, mate. Thank you for having me.
That's right. Thank you for reading.
Well
Sue?
done. Well done, everyone else.
Sue.
Sue.
Hello. Hi. Good evening, everyone. Right, I've got two poems and a very, very short, tiny one as to finish. Moment of Grace. Open up your hands. See all the useless, precious things sift through your grasp. For time is falling sand, circling hunt of sun and shade. This too will pass. Smooth out the slate, no longer keep a score. Lament the fallen leaves. Just take this day, this reckless light. Watch every moment yield. Surrender to the calm of ritual, memorial silence of the solemn roses, sunlit lawn. Let go of all that was before, and let us celebrate the love that will remain. And then this one's called Second Light. I had a stroke when I was about 15 years ago. It was a fairly minor thing, but quite horrendous. And I did get better. And it took me a long time before I could write about it. It was such a violation, really. But this is called Second Light. I get better. I have healed, but somehow I have shed a skin. I find myself amazed, for everything is new and every sound too loud. A struck match deafens, and the washing up is pitched too sharp. I marvel at the way the light comes in, at footsteps in the morning street, the acid yellow of Mahonia flowers, blue dance of skyline, citrus frost upon the grass. The colours brighter, louder, something shifted and is now, and every second lasts forever. I've crossed into some rare dimension where there's no sense of separation. Bliss is what I feel, complete and unconditional compassion. Mine is a body of broken halves. My mouth is full of chewed up paper and the words come out all wrong. My eyebrows ache. My hand, hawk heavy, fumbles with the scissors, knives, stand well back from the edge. When I put my foot down, sometimes there is nothing underneath. Money is a puzzling currency. But do not pity me. I have never felt so nakedly alive. Wisdom tells me that this will not last. I cannot analyze. This will not come again. This single pebble that I hold is borrowed from a distant beach of sharp-lit solitude. In time, I'll excavate the past for clues, fall off the cliff edge of the future. Right now, the teacups are too loud. And then there's this is little tiny love poem which I found, which I really like, and it's by Robert Creeley, quite an old one, and it's called Love Comes Quietly. Love comes quietly, finally, drops about me, on me, in the old ways. What did I know, thinking myself able to go alone all the way? Thank you.
So, what? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well done writing that. Having had 3 heart attacks and a multitude of other things in the last
Yes. So
3
you know
years.
how it feels. Yeah.
I haven't written anything about it. I'm not going to write the miseries.
It's quite difficult, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, and it's exceptionally difficult. So when I read that last little poem, as bad as it was, I actually wrote it, and that's the only thing I've actually, well, I haven't completed it really, but I've made a fist of. And so, well done yourself. That was absolutely brilliant.
It was a long time ago, but it took me ages to be able to deal with it, really. Yeah.
I fully understand.
Yeah, thank
well
you.
done, girl. Well done.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Paul.
Oh, is it me? Hello.
It is you.
Right. Can I be heard?
I can hear you.
Excellent. Okay. Well, hello everyone. I'm I'm plugging my new pamphlet, which is my copy.
Okay.
Let me see that. That's being launched on Tuesday. I've been on about that quite a lot on Facebook. It's called Into the Earth, and it's basically about somebody who wants to be reincarnated as a small burrowing rodent, as you do, and obviously they're imagining this this afterlife in a safe place where they can just live happily underground, but that would involve being in a world where there aren't any weasels. So this is about this is about removing weasels from the world. It's called The End of Weasels, which I would never want to do, by the way. They're wonderful things, but for the purposes of this, The End of Weasels. There must be sleep without nightmares, and bedroom doors no cat can force. Curtains to keep us in a dark where days and seasons are forgotten. In our stories, there must be holes too deep for foxes, cloistered pathways in the corn, unseen by any bird of prey. And there can be no weasels anywhere. Extinction, though, must have come on them quietly as snow. No terror, sickness, or long starvation. They will simply have gone, like sparrows, or those autumn crane flies, rarer and rarer, until only grannies ever said, "We saw such weasels in our time of brighter colours." And let the final one have wandered through days of lammas leaves, danced his savage reels in the sun haze, laughing at heckling chaffinches, and drowsed away the blazing, buzzing afternoons, deep in the tunnels of the dead, on beds of bloodied fur. At twilight, then, let him have hunted in glowworm constellations by the forest's edge, stood tall sometimes to read the wind, trying to catch that other weasel scent that drifted in his daydreams, then dropped back upon all fours and wandered on his way. A movement in the grass, then nothing. Thank you. One more. Continuing the theme, to live safely in your afterlife as a burrowing rodent, you have to have no weasels. Unfortunately, you've got to have no people as well, because we're an even bigger threat. This is trying to imagine, you know, the end of the human species. I never thought of a virus or anything. I imagined a kind of global war. And the best starting point for thinking of that is a place in Kent called Detling, where they have military reenactments. And I think once a year they have all the military reenactment societies descend on it together, and it looks like Armageddon. Strange thing. It's something to see, it really is. So this is The End of People, Part 1, Detling. Think back to the summer of the most rain ever, when there were 3 of us. Remember the long, long morning's drive to see the greatest multi-period military reenactment odyssey in Kent. Remember how you counted cows and horses from the back seat. That dead fox beside the road, his fur like orange fire, touched by a moment's sunlight. Diesel fumes, cut grass, the Roundheads smoking in the car park. Small scraps of filmy napkin like a membrane peeling off your warm veggie burger. Gordon Highlander in scarlet swearing at the rain. Burned meat and candy floss. And everywhere we trudged, the crowds were parting, making way for yet another Sturmbannführer, swinging his arms and practicing the strut in beetle shiny boots and jodhpurs. By a wonky wooden fence, we watched while Roman Britain fell. A Saxon princess lay murdered right before us in the slurping mud of Kent, and rolled her eyes at us and muttered, "Sod this for a game of soldiers," as the rain kept falling, crushing all her bright blonde hair like trampled straw. And then the helicopter was rising over everything in slowed down time, all green and black and all straight lines, a massive oblong like the portable disabled toilet hanging right above. And we were filled with the shrieking of machinery until there was no other sound, no rain, no wind, no children, nothing but the shrieking. I'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Paul. So your launch is online, isn't it?
It is, yes, it's on Zoom. I keep putting the link on Facebook. Otherwise, quick plug, is that all right, Peter? It's on Eventbrite. If you go to Eventbrite and it's just type in Live Canon and you get that's my publisher, and all of their events come up, and obviously mine is the next one. So it's free, but you do need to register to get the Zoom link. And that's on Tuesday 8 o'clock. Oh, and if anybody knows Nancy Hines and Samuel Prince, they are guest readers. So that's another good reason for end of plug. Thanks, Peter.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Right, I'm going to read a poem now by Joe Sanders. Kaleidoscope. I step out into shimmering sun, balancing my steps over cobbles, succumbing on the way to a smell of hot rolls from the bakery. My pink umbrella shields me from the intense heat, but the walk takes longer as I zigzag narrow streets, seeking out shade from every tree and bush. I go through the central gardens, full of Hungarian life, paths crisscrossing past old men playing chess, mums ducking toddlers in the fountain, youth on display, buzz and chatter from pavement cafes. The cathedral strikes the time as the bells of the town hall chime the same folk tune every hour, playing havoc with music dictation later on. I breathe in the smell of coffee, but no time for my favorite cappuccino under the spread of trees. I reach the shelter of the white shining Kadai Institute. The cold of the corridors of this former monastery falls over me like a fine cool shower. I stretch out on the stone floor, drenched with music and song, cascading from every door, overwhelming my senses. That was from Joe. I'm going to read a couple of poems by Maureen Duffy. What's for tea? Friday was fish night, not battered and fried from the chip shop, but fresh from Livermore's in Angel Lane, round the corner from where great Aunt Maggie lived with daughters Maudie and Rose, who patted the yellow butter into shape at the stores with wooden bats. Saffron cockles with rude black tongues, winkles behind shiny front doors to be teased out with a skillful pin that could unwind to their very end, then sows in vinegar and white pepper. Brown shrimps armour-plated, burnished bloaters with slippery soft or pinhead hard roes, iridescent mackerel that fed on drowned men's eyes, or a slither of eels with mash and green parsley gravy. Saturday dinner was the time for fish and chips, wing of skate with whalebone ribs, dogfish, alias rock salmon, rarely dull-eyed cod. So I understand those mussel middens our forerunners heaped on sea or lake shore, relics of Friday teas, breakfasts and dinners. Not fish again. Go out and catch a mammoth then. No wonder they were glad to see the Mesolithic bringing them bread, biscuits, cake, even if it meant harnessing themselves to the plough. And mammicks. Obsolete, the dictionary dubs it, or lip-curling dialect. Cold meat on Monday, shepherded into pie on Tuesday, or sandwiched into my uncle's lunchbox, bubble and squeaked on Wednesday with last night's cold mash. Thursday was stew or steak and kidney pudding, and we were glad to have said goodbye to the mammicks, a word that came down the line to start a new life in the smoke for another century. When I find it again, made classy by Shakespeare and scholarship, meaning cut in little pieces, leftovers, it still has the tag origin obscure, an old word for old ways, now warmed up again as the cold bites, though the words themselves buried fast food techno-speak, like burnt-out loves, never return. That's Maureen Duffy.
Thank you.
So we've had our first round. Should we have a, 5-minute break?
This is called Harsh. Yes, I know it's hard. We all found it hard, but it's a tough world out there. It's the same thing day in, day out. Often people don't get on with each other, but we all have to do it. Try to enjoy it and make the most of it. It won't be forever. You'll have good days and bad days. Some people will become friends, and one day you'll look back and laugh, thinking it wasn't really that bad. Things change quickly. In another year, you'll be at junior school, then secondary school, maybe even university. And before you know it, it'll all be over. Then you can come and work for me. Thank you. And then this one, I've called it My Generation 2019. So that was obviously when I wrote it. It's kind of based a little bit around the Who song. Well, in fact, a lot of it around the Who song, My Generation. People tried to put us down just because we'd been around. Back then, everything seemed so cold. We hoped we'd die before we got old. That then was our generation. I'm talking about my generation. Now we may look back. Now we may not look so cool, but out with mates, we're still the fool. On Saturday nights, we're on the street, looking sharp, dressed neat. We're not gonna be a great sensation. We're just celebrating our generation. We're watching tribute bands to our gods, hippies, rockers, skins and mods, all viewed with our veneration. We're the baby booming generation. Everything our youths, enjoying our youth celebration. I'm talking about my generation. The grey has come, now time has passed. See me out with my freedom pass, looking smart, still kicking ass, always with a laughter in my heart. Life has exceeded all expectation for me and my generation. We help our children when we can, now that we are granddad and nan. We play on the floor with our grandkids, and when they've gone, we have a kip. No longer quite a celebration. It's nice to have some relaxation. I don't want to die before I get old. I've got stories still untold. Back in the days we danced perspiring. Now just the thought has me tiring. This may be the beginning of my degeneration as I lose my expectations. When we're young at heart and in our heads, we don't want to die before the grandkids are wed. That's our generation today. We want to live on, not fade away. Keep going with pacemakers, new hips, knees and medication. This is now become my generation. Thank you.
Nice one.
Yeah. Alan, I saw Roger Daltrey on television not too long ago, and of course after he's got to wear hearing aids all the time now.
Yeah.
Very expensive ones, he says.
Yeah.
But no wonder in front of the martial lamps and what.
Yeah, there's a lot of people suffered from all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Juna, do you want to?
Okay. Thank you. This one's called Footsteps. It is so wonderful when you follow in the footsteps of great people. Some people roles have defined them, their lives and characteristics. There are so many dominant people who are or have been tremendous influence on others. Growing up, I looked up to my father, and he meant the world to me, although my mom wasn't around. His persona and natural flair had an impact on my young life before things took a knock on me. Growing up as a young man, I was impressed with the versatility of individuals like my great sporting hero, Sir Garfield Sobers, who used to play for Nottinghamshire. His all-round ability influenced me. I became a person who tried everything and was very good at what I did. Because then I liked the blues, I taught myself to play 8-bar blues on the piano and was picked by my art teacher, Mr. Blackburn, to play keyboards for a jazz band he had formed at school. I was simply a person who wasn't afraid to do anything. And this one is called "It is Time to Encourage Yourself in the Lord." When things are going against you, it is time to encourage yourself in the Lord. Encourage yourself in the Lord, who will come to your rescue. Life these days is very unpleasant, especially in these trying times. COVID-19 has taken the world by storm and man is scared, but it is time to encourage yourself in the Lord by going into his scriptures. Tell yourself of God to be before who can be against you. Our God is a real God and will attend to your every need. It is time to encourage yourself in the Lord by loving each other, and he will assist you by encamping his mercies around you. We all know that the Lord is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and David, and any weapon that is formed against you will not prosper. Now I feel encouraged because God promised never fail. So please hold on. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Quite welcome.
Jim.
Yeah, this poem is based on Kafka's Metamorphosis. It's a story about a man who wakes up and he's suddenly a cockroach or an insect or something like that. It's called the Kafka syndrome. In a former life, I was a salesman whose job was to explain the workings of computers to those who might not be mentally competent. I recall how one day an old boy of 80 plus panicked when I got technical. "I don't know anything," he sniffed, trembling as if he had a nervous disease. "And some days I'm not even sure whether I'm a man or a butterfly." He wiped his mouth with a cotton handkerchief. I winced inwardly, then nodded as one does. "And if I am a butterfly," he groaned, "I don't even know what kind of a butterfly I might be." I was trained to strike a rapport with such people. "Sir," I said, "I do know something of such matters, and in my opinion, you are unlikely to be a butterfly. But if I were wrong, and I sometimes am, I'd say you're a fairly typical cabbage white." I gave a salesman's hollow chuckle. He chose not to make a purchase, and I forgot him. But sometime later, we met once more in a shopping precinct. He was dressed rather gaudily for a man of his age and wearing makeup. "I'm a Red Admirable," he said haughtily, and flew off into the sun-kissed firmament.
Very good.
Excellent.
Have you got another one, Jim?
It's a long one. I think there's too many people, so you know, one wanted to read, so I'll leave it at that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Stuart. You on mute. You're muted.
You probably know from my appearances in Croydon, I'm very fond of song lyrics, and I've chosen a love poem with a chorus again. So if people want to join in, you're very welcome to unmute and join in the chorus. And some of you may know it. It's Tom Traubert's Blues. Anyone know it? By Tom Waits. It's sung by Rod Stewart. It's 6 or 8 verses, so I've just cut it down to 3. But it still follows. And it is a love poem. And the chorus is to go waltzing Matilda, you'll go a waltzing Matilda with me. So we all know the chorus. When I raise my hand, say the chorus with me. You can all unmute if you like. Wasted and wounded, and it ain't what the moon did. I've got what I paid for now. Hey Frank, can I borrow a couple of bucks from you to go waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll go a waltzing Matilda with me. I'm an innocent victim of a blinded alley, and I'm tired of all these soldiers here. No one speaks English, and everything's broken, and my strength is soaking away to go waltzing Matilda. Waltzing Matilda.
Waltzing Matilda
with me.
Matilda with me.
Now I've lost my St. Christopher, now that I've kissed her, and the one-armed bandit knows, and the maverick Chinaman with a cold-blooded sigh, and the girls down by the striptease shows go waltzing Matilda. Waltzing Matilda. You'll go waltzing
Matilda.
And it's a battered old suitcase in a hotel place, and a wound that will never heal. No prima donna. The perfume is on an old shirt that is stained with blood and whiskey. Good night to the street sweepers, the night watchmen, the flame keepers. Good night, Matilda. Good night, Matilda, too. If you haven't heard it, go for the Rod Stewart sung version. It's called Tom Traubert's Blues, and it is beautifully written. I think it's really poetical, and it's much longer than this. Thank you.
Do you have anything else you want to? No? Okay. Jane, you're next.
Okay. Mine is called A Good Book. I think that saved me during COVID, all of this lockdown and everything. So a good book, like a reluctant dawn, can start off sluggishly, only to quicken as the drama unfolds. It can be a conch shell washed up on a beach, lifeless until picked up and held to the air, unleashing an orchestra. At times, it's like a rainbow rising from a puddle on some busy city street, quite unexpected and so uplifting. A good book transcends time and place, magically speaking volumes, its power immense. Like a good teacher, it can crank your brain into gear on a steel grey morning, gently or otherwise. Like any granny, it has bags of common sense, life tips, and so much more besides. A good book is like popcorn munched at the cinema, whetting the appetite, only to leave you wanting more. It's like a Caribbean callaloo and crab with chewy bits that stick in your teeth, irritating yet pleasurable, or like jelly coconut water, slurped with eyes half closed in the shade of a calabash tree and tasting like heaven. It can be as reassuring as an old friend with whom there is no need to speak, comforting even through silence. That good book, read under the covers, way past bedtime, with or without a torch, is wickedly appealing, whether you're 90 or 9.
Oh, that's nice.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Another one?
No, I just read one. Yeah.
Oh, right. Nick Viner-Mernon, you're on next.
Okay, I thought I'd go for Calero actually. The change. Just sort of, having done, a slightly sickly love poem, I feel I need to cleanse myself with a tale of woe and murder and abuse, that kind of stuff. It's called Growing Up Alone. Ontomo took his brother's son, put the newborn in a cradle. Kullervo, son of Kalavo, plucked from his mother's womb. Kullervo, son of Kalavo, growing up alone. His father left for the scavengers to feast upon his flesh. Kullervo, son of Kalavo, lost among the killers of his kin. He kicks apart his cradle, looks his uncle in the eye. The small one threatens vengeance as he learns to kick and bite. Word comes to Utamno, his little warrior, his slave, is planning insurrection and means to carry on the feud. The uncle calls his henchmen in. I offered you this sanctuary when no one else would let you in. Now you must do this thing for me. You can do it with a frown or you can do it with a grin, but take this problem child away. I don't care what you do with him. I don't care how you choose to play, only that his eyes grow dim. Bring him to me when you are done. Show me the body of Kullervo's son. So, killing Kullervo. They took him to drown in the sea, sealed in a barrel, shut in a leaky vessel. When the sun dipped down, it was bobbing, all but sunk beneath the waves. On the third day, they returned to fish out the body, claim their reward, but the boy was sitting on the barrel, blue stockings astride the keg, a small copper rod in his hands, a red silken line in the sea, a pile of fish in front of him. With a wide smile on his lips, he was measuring out the ocean with a ladle to measure the sea.
Awesome.
Killing Kullervo again? If he won't drown, they reasoned, he'll burn. So they placed him on a pyre, piled around with good dry wood. They chose branches with resinous sap to catch the sparks and feed the fire, blazing up into the sky. For 3 days the flames roared, for 3 nights it lit up the dark. When they climbed the mound of embers, they found the boy Kullervo playing with an iron rake, collecting charcoal from the ash, a wide smile upon his lips, not a curl out of place on his head. Killing Kullervo for the last time. They hung a noose around his neck and lynched him from a sturdy tree, dangled from a high branch, feet dancing in the air. They watched until he ceased to kick, waited all day as he swayed in the wind. The next day they watched as he hung in the sky and ravens pecked at his flesh. On the third day, when they came for him, the tree was transformed from base to tip, decorated and carved with designs of warfare and death and battlegrounds, and Kullervo was holding the knife, a wide smile upon his lips and a challenge in his eyes. There you go, it goes downhill from there. Yeah. It's a tragic tale.
Just a thing for the kiddies at bedtime.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is
Sounds like
there
fun.
more?
I'm sure this will finish. Kiddies loved it.
Is there more, Nick? Is it a full book? Is there, are there more chapters to level?
Yeah, there's more.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's a very big book.
Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't finished the whole of Kullervo's Tale, but I have done the next bit.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, he gets given some tasks to do by his uncle, who decides to use him as a slave since he can't kill him.
Right.
And he does the tasks all wrong, causing a lot of grief. So, yeah.
Looking forward to reading the whole thing when it's done. Reading the book here.
Yeah. It might take me a few years.
That's all right.
Lorraine, do you want to?
Unmute. Right, it's a short one. I remember about nearly half a century ago, I had some friends, and one had a farm near Glyndebourne and a home in London. And when you went down to his farm, and a housekeeper and a husband looked after it, and he was in London. And when you went there, they would give you a pair of boots if you wanted to look around the farm. They'd give you the Wellington. They had everybody's sizes, and they took your shoes away and gave them to you afterwards. And that's what I'd like now, but it hasn't happened to me. This is called Don't Harbour the Footprints, because Debbie Grayson wanted, that's a theme for tomorrow's afternoon Croydon thing. And so I called mine Don't Harbour the Footprints. The crisis we're in means you have to endure more and yet more. You're no longer able to have a footman or a Jeeves at your service demure, waiting to take hold of each galosh and wash off the slush and the gore, deftly holding out your snug slippers and decanting gin of whiskey galore. But what do you do now to ensure there are no muddy footprints on your carpeted floor? The law prohibits boots you shod must not be left outside your own flat's front door. You'd be fined for sure. If you hamper the block's hypothetic getaway venture, there'd be an uproar. But you'll need to unfetter your feet before you're footsore. The staff on the outhouse have long disappeared, and you're left with the cleaning chore of sodden wellies flung in your pad, caught by bucket or sisal runner. Just ignore. As for the voguish environmental pollution, there'll soon be an effective virus kill-like solution. Just make sure when you ransack Lidl's you're not seen, nicking a few meters of disposable floor protective polythene. That's what I do, to stick in my hall when I go there and fling any muddy boots on it and then throw it away afterwards. Just get my yards and yards of polythene from Lidl's. So I'm going now to hear Churchill on the TV, so see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Steve, Mr. Rushton.
Yes, thanks.
Unless you want to go and see Mr. Churchill on the television.
Maybe not. Back to the story of the eye. If you remember, he's finishing his ablutions. And for those with the knowledge of Crystal Palace, some of the references will chime, hopefully. I wash the dishes, brush my teeth, and turn the central heating off. Go out the house, go in again to double check most everything. Resist the urge to triple check, go down the steps and through the gate. Across the road and down the street to find some not so secret agents waiting on the station concourse with their leaflets, what they're selling. I won't need a home, new windows, Jesus Christ, a third world country. Membership of some obscure cabal at coffee, sorry, no. I say hello, squeeze past unbruised, to find a queue to buy the ticket. Useless people hesitate, I take a risk and round a corner to the ticket office, though the queue is longer, I can tell. From sounds behind the counter, it's the fastest selling ticket vendor in the land. Your tickets change before you speak, the queue contracts with utmost speed, but still the minutes tick, 2 more until my train. I buy a ticket, run down steps, across the ramp, the thudding feet. Stampede and 10 more steps to go. The train arrives, a yellow ear is painted on the floor. I wonder what's that for? The train doors open, shh. I'm in and find a seat. Sit down and see as yesterday, but not in black, but now in grey. Suit top and slacks, and I like me, observing daily men with hairy wrists and stiff shirt cuffs stare into nothingness. The station next is Sydenham, then Forest Hill. Allotments hide behind the trees, graffiti sprawls on concrete walls. As Honorak approaches, I remember once some racist shouting, "Can the West Indian gentleman move down the railway carriage, please?" loudly twice. At New Cross Gate, the rooftop sculptures stand against a cloudy sky. The cranes and towers multiply and sunbeams shoot diagonals on flats to let for information telephone. I never could quite get the rest. At London Bridge, my mind departed playing truant up beyond the railway siding, seeing all the city spread with London so resplendent, sparkling. In the morning I was flying like on Google Earth or worse, on Ryanair, and gliding down to check on how acquaintances were doing, wiping sleep from eyes or off to work or late for lectures, climbing hills or standing in a studio or on a doorstep. All was fine and so relieved, returning to my train in time. Thank you.
Amen.
And another one?
Yeah, I could just do one more, a short one. We're now in the city. 8. The click and pad of shoe and heel, the purr of taxis, standing suits, alighting lorries, rumbling, beeping while reversing cul-de-sacs, a pint of beer upon a step, and claustrophobic alleyways with haunted corners not yet warm. The sun has touched them only briefly, light squeezed down to bless some old forgotten wall, and pine cones sit atop St Edmund in the King, a coffee house that's now a pub, has bread and lettuce on its doorstep. That'll do.
Thank you very much. Mohammed.
Yes, I'll kick off the second part of my recitation today with a little mention of April. April is the cruelest month. Just a few lines and then I'll launch into one of mine. April is the cruelest month, breeding relics out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. It's Ramadan now, and which I don't think is cruel. I mean, I fasted and fast at around about 8 o'clock, 8 to 2, basically. 18.5 more than. It didn't feel cruel. But here's my Ramadan poem. Ramadan 1, and it's all about beginnings. The preparation, looking at a number of food items to purchase, focusing upon Allah and being fired up for love of Allah and abstinence. Pre-Ramadan day 1, and the light of Allah's created earth is all around, on heads and the back of necks, upper backs. A little gift, that's all. Now shall shaitan flee, and so let us not be hasty to sit tight. Do not let go of principles upon a whim and a fancy. And I was passing by the theater, our local theater, Broadway Theater, and they have a poem of Maya Angelou's, which is I Rise, Still I Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides. Just like hope spring high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? You take, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise, up from a past that's rooted in pain I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nets of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
Thank you.
Amen, amen.
No. Shall I finish with a bit of Boris? He's not here today. Boris isn't here today, but I'm going to read out one of his poems, yeah? Like, he's,
okay.
You know, 'cause he's a bit of a poet now. Yeah, so this is Still I Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may kick me in the very arse, but still like dust, I'll rise. Out of my killing shame, rise out of my sleaze, stifling drain, I rise, the cladding stays, I rise, high rise, rise.
Well, thank you, Boris.
Welcome. Welcome. Keir is a hypocrite. Sir Keir is a hypocrite.
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Norman, do you want to read anything?
Follow that.
Hi, Peter. You hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't going to, but I've got two. Well, they're fun, silly, short. First one, oh God, this is it was about 10 years ago, but it still stands good. It's only two little short verses. It's called 21st Century Hobbit. Yesterday, the Eagle Annual, cardboard box tanks, conkers, yo-yos, Monopoly, mechano-engineered cranes, football scrapbooks, Beatles bubblegum collection cards, majestic steam locomotives on Typhoon tea cards, happy days. Today, 21st century hobbits on the quest for points, levels, to become masters of their realm, fixated on laptops, iPads and smartphones. Happy days, part 2. Question mark. Big question mark. Yeah.
Definitely.
And this one, if Jim's still on, are you there, Jim? Oh God, this is about 15 years old, and it's only 4 lines, and they have been criticised of being a wee bit sexist with it, but it's funny. And I can imagine Jim reading this one. It's called 34 Bs. Throughout M&S, the departmental store chain, 34B bras cover their mannequins in vain. This got me thinking of stout, buxom ladies not represented in the wild Outer Hebrides. Thank you. That's it.
So what are women like in the Outer Hebrides?
Well, I used to, no, they're all normal, like, but it was just the buxom ladies. I've met a few up in the north. Let's put it that way. Yeah. And it was this obsession with, especially at the time, models being size 8 or 10. You with me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This obsession and all the magazines and the advertising and everything. And I just thought, well, wait a minute, this is not everybody. And it was just the stout buxom ladies, Hebrides rhymed with it.
Thank you very much. So, Martin, you got to follow that.
There won't be any buxom ladies in this bit. Somebody mentioned yew trees, so reminded me of one of my poems. So this is from a visit to Berwick Church in Sussex. I did start a series on that church, but this is the opening one. It's a yew tree at Berwick Church, including 20th century Bloomsbury murals. That's in the interior. Anyway, it's a sonnet. This ancient tree, symbol of solidity, permanence and strength, was first of all a thing of grace and shining beauty, delighting eyes and heart, both broad and tall, eclipsing that church which shaded half. The sunny side, where red fruit shone against that rich dark green, first drew my gaze, for awe, amazed, was honey to my soul, which breathed a calm, serene and wholesome air, unlike that other show inside the building, where the Grants and Bell had sketched, designed and planned, in vivid tones, with nods to Rome, the war and what we know of them at Charleston, hints of heaven and hell, like whitewashed tombs concealing dead men's bones. And I'll finish with a limerick, which is a recent composition by me, so it's a bit lighter. There was a young man from Dundee who was fond of a wee dram or three. But as a result, this by no means a cult, he cut off his family tree. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Anne. Limericks.
It's called Sick Transit. Things disappear. Homes where I used to live, no longer there. Places I visited professionally have been demolished. Landmarks of my life are unraveling behind me. I think I must let her know, or how he always hated all this change. But they too are gone. They too unravel, trailing their threads along the paths of time. The ripples my existence made are spent before I've gone, leaving only perhaps the faintest perfume of my having been. Actually, I clung on for a bit after that. This is a rant. Injury lawyers for you. Oh, injury lawyers for you. Your advertisements cause me concern. You say you'll support me if anything befalls me, which definitely isn't my fault. So imagine a man in a car. He's driving along in the road when suddenly he is struck dead with a heart attack, so to say. The car comes towards me. I'm hurt. So who are you going to sue? Injury lawyers for you? Or let's think, and it isn't so rare that a cancer attacks me today. It definitely isn't my fault. Is it God you are going to sue? Injury lawyers for you? Does it?
Thank you.
It's going to disappear. Good night, everyone. Good night.
Good night. We'll be back on the first Friday of May, so.
Thank you. Very nice to meet new faces. Good night.
See you again. Take care.
We'll try and grow some.
I've only got this old face. At least
And
it looks.
everyone's gone. You frightened him, Martin.
Yeah. Good night, all.
Are you off as
Good
well?
night. Thanks, everyone.
I thought we were close.
It's Paul's go next.
Oh, right. No, I'm not going then. Okay.
Is it me? Oh, can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes,
okay.
you can.
Still plugging the new pamphlet, available now from all good bookshops, and launching on Tuesday. Okay. Continuing the theme of the destruction of the human race in a global war. This is the End of People Part 2, How the War Began. Since there were no princesses worth the bother anymore, the enemy altered their plans. Instead, they netted the Secretary General, put her in a laundry basket, drove her out to Eastbourne in a transit van, and kept her locked in a room at the top of the lighthouse at Beachy Head. They took her phone. They tied balloons outside the window with the printed face of London's mayor to scare the birds away, in case she tried to send an SOS by pigeon or seagull. They took scissors to her hair to make quite sure, they said, that there'd be none of that Rapunzel nonsense, giving her a page boy cut, which rather suited her, they thought. She disagreed. They let her keep her iPod. For 3 days, the music of her lost years echoed down the spiral stairwell. Then the battery died, and no one had a charger. So the drag of sea on stones was all there was, except those evenings when the guards sang lullabies in foreign, thinking this might help her fall asleep. It didn't. They began inviting her downstairs to eat with them, and let her go for walks along the beach. Sometimes she crouched for hours on knees and elbows, staring at transparent shrimps in rock pools. But on other days, when all the effing and blinding got too much for them, they sent her upstairs, all 118 of them, to bed. And trembling in a thrilling sulk, she'd lie and watch the shadows of balloons wavering on the brickwork. Later, there was speculation, whether a GPS device was hidden in an earring or perhaps a buttock implant, or after all, the place was found by chance. The oblong helicopters were there one afternoon, like shrieking sidelong buildings, lurching over the cliffs and churning up the beach. Then came the cameras and the solemn Irish women talking and talking. That was based on the assumption that all BBC war correspondents seemed to be Irish women. I was thinking of Orla Guerin and Lise Doucette and Barbara Plett-Usher, only to find that 2 of those are not Irish at all. They're Canadian. They just do the voice. It must go with the job. One more. Okay, we've had the last weasel. This is the last person left after this global war. It's called The End of People 3, The Lepidopterist. Because you still remember the tall old man who hunted moths, snuffed them in a heavy almond-scented jar, then pinned their splayed, perfect husks in straight rows, taxonomically sequenced, in cases of mahogany and glass. The old man who fell dead from his chair beside us in that hall of curtains and oak at the society meeting when you were just 14. We'll resurrect him in a story, if you like, and let him have one summer. Wherever he really lived, we'll see him in a cottage garden, enclosed by lichen-splotched stone walls, with plum trees rippling the shadows of their wind-stirred branches over him in his wicker chair. Above the wall, the clouds are bright at sunset, the way they were in Dorset. Jackdaws are calling, flying home over the broken watchtowers. And later, we see him at his supper, saying grace over a bowl of cold tomato soup at a wobbly table by the kitchen window. He breaks a biscuit into crumbs, dropping them by the mouse hole in the wainscot. He has read how General Gordon, waiting for the Mahdi, shared his dinners with a mouse. Later still, we see him sitting up in bed. He has already kissed the photograph, the grimace for the camera of the girl he nearly married in an oval cardboard frame. But he is still unused to sleeping in this new quiet of no helicopters, no machine guns, only the antique grandfather clock, slow knocking in the dark. Waiting for his mind to jumble into drowsiness, he reads a few more pages of Hudson's Hampshire Days, by candlelight. Lastly, he's standing on the garden steps, his bare feet claw-toed on rough stone. The moon is up, jigsawed by branches, so let's say we can see him in his long, pale nightshirt. He clasps the cracked cups of his hands close to his chest. A hawk moth whirs and rustles, its furred weight pushing to burrow out between his fingers. He speaks its old, remembered name, raises his hands, and lets it go. And we will leave him here, like this. Okay, that's my lot. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a fascinating world, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. Right, I'll finish by reading one poem by Larkin, which seems appropriate for the time of year. It's The Trees. The trees are coming into leaf, like something almost being said. The recent buds relax and spread. Their greenness is a kind of grief. Is it that they are born again and we grow old? No, they die too. Their yearly trick of looking new is written down in rings of grain. Yet still the unresting castles thresh in full-grown thickness every May. Last year is dead, they seem to say. Begin afresh, afresh, afresh.
Very good.
Thank you. And thank you all very much for an entertaining evening.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
And we'll, the first Friday of May, we will reconvene. Resume. That's a word.
Resume.
That's frightening. Me already? Goodness me.
Too much Zoom spent turn you into a zombie.